This is Hot Street with Benny.
Hello there. Welcome to another episode of Hot Street Podcast. I'm so excited. Yes, I'm really, first off, I would say that shout outs to you out there for being part of this podcast. But then I'm so grateful as how, very consistent I've been with this podcast. I thought maybe it was something that when I start, at a particular time, I'll get tired and I'll say, you know what, I'm done. But I've been coming here, sharing one or two things, and you've been at the other end, of course, being part of it and listening to it, and it's a big deal for me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone who listens to Heart Street. Today's episode of Heart Street Podcast is quite interesting. You know what? Today, let's call it Rant episode. Yes, the Rant episode. Let's rant just about anything you want to rant about anything. I remember one time a friend of mine called me. I think I was at work or maybe in a meeting or something, and I saw her call. She called me twice and I couldn't pick. So I immediately went on WhatsApp and I texted. I said, hi, I am somewhere. I'm in the middle of something. I can't pick your call. I see your call, but I can't pick it. If you need to talk, just what's up? Let me know. What's the problem? And then she says to me that I need to talk to you now. I said, okay. And so I excused myself, called her and we spoke, and I realized that she just wanted to rant about a particular incident because she's a trainer and something had happened with one of her trainees and she was really mad. And she just needed to call someone to rant. And then after she was done ranting, she says to me, what should I do? And of course I tell her to relax. And then I just gave her my own 2 cents and all that. And I realized that sometimes that's just how it is with us. We just want to rant about something. And, we just want to have someone who will listen to what we have to say. And it's amazing to say that life is very funny. You cannot have all the answers to the things you want to do, and sometimes you just need that person to advise you, talk to you, and all that. So you find someone you rant to, you find someone who can be your place of solace where you just get those advice and all of that. Okay, so that is why this episode is really about ranting, just ranting. Let me share a story. Back in 2023, something had happened, and I remember then, I think I said this in one of my episodes when I said that at that time I found a particular scripture very comforting, which was in Psalms, where it said, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. I remember one of those days I stood in front of the mirror and I looked at myself through the mirror, and I was just talking to God as if He was there right before me. I remember talking to Him. I said, what is going on, sir? What is going on with you? What is going on with me? Is this how you're going to leave me? Is this where you are going to leave me? I am in a very bad state. Why would you leave me like this? Why does it feel like I'm alone? Why are you not showing up for me? Why are you not being my father? Oh my God, it was a rant day. I tell you the truth. I was in that mirror for close to an hour, and with the way I was talking, there was tears falling down my eyes. Tears was falling down my eyes because I was really, really weak and I was vulnerable. I didn't know what else to do. And at that point, I was really finding it so hard to open up and really share what I was going through with people. I had this mindset where I felt like God knows everything and He was going to fix everything. So I remember doing that in the mirror. And after some time, there's a kind of this, there's a way you will cry. When you cry and then you sleep. So that was how it happened. I knew that I was in front of the mirror. I was ranting to God. And the next thing I didn't know when, I just, slept off. And when I woke up, the first thing I did was to exhale. I did, that was the first thing. I just exhaled. So because it was like a whole burden, my heart was, I was just carrying a lot. And I think immediately after I did that in the mirror and I cried and I went to bed. So when I woke up, the first thing I did was I exhaled. And somehow I felt better. And then I hear the Holy Spirit tell me, it's okay. This experience would not overwhelm you. It's okay. And somehow I found comfort in that. That is how I know that sometimes in life, all we want to do is rant, and all we want to experience sometimes is someone who can truly listen. Someone who can truly listen. So, permit me to ask you, do you have a rant partner? I know this question might sound funny, but I'm serious. Do you have that person who is your go-to person that you can rant to about different things in life? You can just rant to them. Do you have that kind of a person in your life? It's important to really have those kind of people, to be honest. Not people necessarily persons, or just an individual who you can rant to, be yourself around, tell them about what is going on in your life. But I tell you what, someone I know who would never get tired of hearing you, never get tired of listening to you, never get tired of hearing you rant, is Jesus. God can never be tired of us. God can never be tired to hear us rant about things, to hear us express ourselves in whatever way we want to express it. But more so, God would normally use people to help bring us a sense of peace and, a sense of community, a sense of just peace. God will often use people. He will use people. I don't know how some people live their lives and they bottle things up. They don't share anything with anybody. They get into issues and challenges in life. They fix it. They move on. They just basically have this superhero kind of thing, because I feel like that is a superhero. It's a superhero kind of behavior now, where you're just doing your thing yourself. There's nobody. I don't know how people do that. Me, I no go rant, okay? No, I will rant though. I beg, I will rant. So I tell you the truth, God is never tired of hearing it. But like I said, He will use people. Sometimes He places people strategically in our lives, different places in our lives, to assist us, right? To help us. When is that time for us to rant? When we need to share something talk to someone, and then he would bring certain people into our lives.
Are you enjoying this episode of Hot Street with Benny? Make sure to subscribe to Imagine Studios 116 to catch up with the whole crew. It's at Imagine Studios 116 on YouTube and Instagram. Now, back to Hot Street.
What I want you to do after listening to this is to rant. What I want you to do after listening to this podcast is to rant. I know you've been holding so much inside. I know there's so much you're not saying. There's so much you're not sharing. There's so much you're not willing to admit. But I want you after this podcast to rant. If you don't have anyone to rant it to, just do my style. Go to the mirror and rant to that mirror. Rant to yourself, because you see, the thing you're doing now is, as you're expressing, there's someone who is hearing you. God, He's there, right there, listening to you. Yes. So you might be wondering, why did Benny talk so much about ranting in this episode? Why is she talking about ranting a lot? Because I don't want you to bottle things up. Bottling things up is harder. I want you to express it. I want you to rant it out. I want you to let it go. I find out that one of the causes of BP these days, that's high BP, high blood pressure, especially even in young people, is too much of pressure. Yes, there's so much inside that people are not willing to share, people are not willing to let out, and sometimes when health fails, you see sometimes some of them are diagnosed with high blood pressure. And these things are real, these things are true, these things are people's realities. So the essence of this episode is to tell you to rant it out. Don't keep it inside. If you don't have anyone to talk to, use the mirror example I gave already. And I said it earlier, if there's one person who is not tired of hearing you rant, it is God. Look, let me say something. God is not a cliche. It's not a cliche that people say all the time. It's true. But you have to have the personal experience. And sometimes when we go through things, when we go through these emotional hurdles in life, you get to realize how much you need God more than anything else. Because sometimes, you see, human beings might not be able to read your inner thoughts. Then we can't read each other's inner thoughts. We cannot know what someone is thinking. There'll always be someone who will misunderstand you. Even when you rant, there's always going to be someone who wouldn't get you, but there's always one person who is willing to listen, and that is God, that is Jesus. And what I want you to know, like I said, is God would use people, right? He will use people, place people in strategic points in our lives to help us navigate some of the seasons. But what I want you to do after listening to this podcast is to rant. When was the last time you opened your mouth and you said, oh, I don't know how I'm going to pay these fees. I don't know how I'm going to pay this rent. I don't know how I'm going to start up this business. I don't even know where I'm going to get money for food. I don't know where I'm going to get money for I'm saying you should say it out. It helps. You've expressed it. At least it's not sulking inside of you. Oh my God. Trust me. Ranting helps a lot. It does. It does help so much. Trust me. So I want you to rant. I want you to feel better. Most importantly, I want you to know that God cannot be tired of listening. Okay, I think I had a good time. I really had a good time on this podcast today. I did. I really did. Don't forget that Heart Street Podcast is brought to you by Imagine Studios 116. You can check us on Instagram, Imagine Studios 116, and see what we do. Look us up on social media, see what we do. We're on YouTube as well, Imagine Studios 116. And of course, you'll find other amazing podcasts that will really, really bless you. Thank you so much for being part of Heart Street today. Heart Street will be back again very soon. But don't forget, today I say rant it out. My name is Benny. Thank you so much for being here till now. Until I come your way again. Bye for now.
This episode of Heart Street with Benny was proudly brought to you by Imagine Studios 116.